all of our resins in a box with ice.
So, never used this before. This will be an interesting experiment.
Exciting! I'm a little bit tired already tonight, so.
It's thinking 5 o'clock in the morning. Folks. All right, I'm gonna get this. I will get this eventually.
Maybe you need more whiskey.
I need more whiskey.
That's the problem.
More whiskey. Hey everybody, welcome back.
First things first, we want to give a shout out to our new patrons, Alan S. Hall, Sailing Serenity, Jack Kathy D, and Ben Lyle. Thank you guys so much for your support. It means more to us than you can possibly know. Here's to you guys.
You're keeping the boat afloat.
First of all, guys, just let me say I'm sorry up front. In this episode, I am a hot mess. We've been working on the boat for, I don't even remember how long now. And I was frazzled and tired. So, excuse the mess.
All right, well, when we last left it, we had just finished the first half of a bilge of fiberglass. We were actually laying fiberglass, but we still had a lot of fiberglassing to do. The keel was still on the outside, needing some love. So I guess we're gonna jump right into that. Y'all have seen us grinding, and you've seen us laying fiberglass in fast forward, time lapses and stuff like that. This video is going to be less about results and more about our process. So we're not going to bore you with a whole bunch of montages of time-lapse grinding or time-lapse glassing. If you want that, our last video had a nice time-lapse of us glassing. We're going to try and keep this one more educational in terms of how we did what we did. Please weigh in on how horrible we made it or how great we did. I don't know. We don't know anything.
We got a lot of great advice from you guys. And
you're amazing.
So many words of wisdom, and at the end of the day, we just kind of had to figure out what we were capable of within our time frame and our budget that would allow us a reasonably strong fix for flow. We're happy with the decisions that we made. We might live to regret them. I don't know yet, but for right now, we feel like we've done a good job.
I'd like to call out a couple of things. A couple of viewers reached out and did say that yes, sometimes you do fiberglass the keel joint.
That's right, yeah.
And we just watched a friend haul out who had fiberglass on his lead keel. So
yes. Yeah, we've had several of you reach out after. It's so funny that the last video came out and a lot of you had questioned the fiberglass guys' method of fiberglassing around the keel hole joint. And after that video came out, several people came forward and said that they had that done or have seen it done on other boats and that it is sound advice.
And we just watched a friend haul out who had that. Had no idea.
Had no idea, yeah.
So all our glassing is done as of the recording of this video. One very astute person reached out and mentioned that we could have do our relief cuts in the fiberglass a little better. Unfortunately, when he reached out, the glassing was already done. But we did take a piece of paper and try out that method, which is here. And yeah, it would have resulted in less glass on the tab, which I think would have been okay. It would have resulted in more glass joining the grid to the tab, which probably would have been better. We went overkill on the layers because we wanted it as thick and strong as possible. I don't think we would have needed as many layers if we had used that angled cutting method. So just goes to show you the knowledge pool that the audience has is amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, so, we appreciate each and every one of you.
So we showed you one side of that bilge, the center bilge. The other side of the bilge was identical. We're not going to give you a whole bunch of detail there. There's a little montage, but we did have to put a couple of small patches in.
So today we're fiberglassing the other side of the center bilge, the side that we did not get to the other day when we were working on it. We're going to essentially repeat the same process that we did before with the 6 layers of fiberglass and 12 layers in the corners. So it'll be nice and stout. But on this side of the bilge, there were a couple of air voids, pretty big ones when we ground out the gel coat. As you can see down here, these spots, and there are several of them, which we're going to put fiberglass patches in there and kind of fill those out before we glass the entire thing. The rest of the process will just be the same as the other side.
Okay, so I've cut squares for that, but we need to shape them. You ready?
Ready?
We were working nights and that stopped working because we weren't getting enough done. So now we're working nights and days. We'll sleep when we splash. It'll be fine. But because we're doing fiberglassing at night and in daytime, it's so hot in here. We have to leave the companionway open for fumes. So we're keeping all of our resins in a box with ice. So when we do our pumps and do our mixes, it's very cold. And it just lasts a little longer, takes a little longer for it to start to harden and kick. So yeah, we have chilled epoxy. Tastiness. The great thing is when you get close, you shove some beers in there. Hey, when we finish, we gotta be celebrating.
That's right.
All right, let me pump this up here.
Do you want me to keep recording while you pump it?
Nah, doesn't matter. 1.
Our forward bilge had very little damage to it. Most of it was confined to the aft part of the forward bilge. But we did have to remove some of the tabbing, which required a little bit of careful surgery with the Dremel tool. But overall the damage there was relatively minor in comparison to the center bilge.
that did not stop us from greatly overglassing it. And again, we did it just like the center bilge, so we're not going to show you all of it. We're going to show you one layer just to get the point across. We're in the middle of a gravel parking lot on the hard. There's no trees, there's no shade, and it's gravel. It's hotter than the listed temperature. I know everybody's dealing with heat, but we are dealing with heat.
For those of you who are not in the United States, and I don't know if this is going on everywhere or if it's just us lucky ones, has had unprecedented heat waves. The water temperatures in the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico are hitting record highs.
All time since we've been measuring record highs.
Right. So it's not just us complaining. I know we have been complaining a lot about the heat, but it is legitimately hotter than it has ever been.
Okay, currently it's 4 o'clock Eastern time on the 11th. The temperature says it's 92, which I don't know where they're measuring that, but the feels like temperature is 115. Mesha's here doing some dishes. Our water goes through a hose and then up into the boat. How's that water, Mesha?
Feels like bath water. It's coming out hot, like almost scalding hot. And I usually do, or when we lived in the house, I usually did dishes with hot water, and this is hot even by my standards.
Yeah, so the water coming out's too hot. We have temperature sensors. This one is inside our refrigerator, which is down in there, and it usually maintains about 84. This one, the 91 degrees, is the actual temperature inside the boat. We have 2 ACs going, and they're not keeping up. So it's 91 in the boat. This is in our cockpit. That 102 degrees, that's actually in the cockpit under this bimini in the shade. That's obviously the freezer, so that doesn't count. This is why we work at 3 a.m., right?
Yeah. It's comparatively cool in here at only 92 degrees.
That's ridiculous. Okay, so it's now midnight. We're getting a little bit of a late start, but not by a lot. Usually we start around like 10:30 or 11. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. I'm a little bit tired already tonight, so.
Well, so last night we had a much later night. We were up till almost 5.
Yeah, and I feel like we got plenty of sleep today, but our schedules are so off that it's really weird being awake at night and then going to bed during the day, and it doesn't make for a very restful sleep. So we're still kind of getting used to it, even though hopefully tonight is our last night of having to do this.
So the first thing we're going to do is cut the glass for tonight, for the last bilge, and then set up and glass it. And then we can go to bed. So hopefully this won't take too long and we won't be filthy. We already measured the space, so I know how big to make this. It's supposed to be 17 and a half.
Good job. Guess you've been doing this too many times.
I guess so. That's port side number 1. So this one is also port side number 1. What I'm going to do is cut 6 more of this and 6 more of that for the port side, and then we'll move on to the starboard side. It's all going to be the same. So we're not going to make you watch me cut 11 more pieces of this.
Okay.
We're using 1708 glass. It's a 17-ounce biaxial weave with a 3/4 ounce chop strand on the back of it. It's a strong, good, general purpose repair glass. But when you cut it, this little chop strand on the back leaves little glass shards. So we try and stack them on plastic or something like that, because that stuff doesn't vacuum up. It's a mess. Anyway, continuing with the cutting.
Okay, so while Kate is cutting the glass, I'm going to be cleaning out the bilge because we still have a lot of dust left in there from grinding it out, and we have to get rid of all of that and clean it up so that we can start glassing. That was totally accidental.
We got all the glass cut, and Mesha has gotten the bilge completely dust-free. We treat with isopropyl alcohol and then we tamp to get the final layer of stuff off. We've stacked the glass literally in the order that we're going to put it in. So here would be, this is starboard 1 and port 1. And then underneath that would be the big patch of port 1 and the big patch of starboard 1. So each layer we do has 2 big pieces that go down port and starboard, and then 2 little pieces, port and starboard, that wrap around the corners. So far we have only gotten 1 layer on per roller. So we just change out rollers each layer, each batch, right? When I mix up a batch, we don't mix up a batch, a big gallon of it to go through everything. Each bilge so far has used about a gallon. Today we are using West Systems instead of Total Boat, only because I was able to get this today. We've already gone through 2 gallons of resin and then a comparable amount of hardener. With the Total Boat systems for the front 2 bilges, we expect this back bilge to take about the same amount, so just ran down to the marine supply and got a gallon of that. We've got our trays laid out and our rollers laid out, so we don't try and recycle trays, stir sticks, or rollers. We have some of the recyclable stir sticks, but it's just so much effort to clean them and stuff like that. So we'll mix up a small batch and use the chip brush just to wet the surface. And then we'll let that cure for about 30 minutes. We could probably hit it with a heat gun and get it to cure faster, but we're amateurs. We don't want to hit it with the heat gun and have it cure too fast. So, and then, oh no, now we're not getting the ionic bond, we're just getting a mechanical bond. So we just sit and watch it cure and until it's tacky. That's only to get the glass to stick to vertical surfaces when we're putting it down. So we put on a layer and let it get tacky, then we re-wet it and put that vertical layer of glass on. The vertical layer of glass absorbs all that wetness off of the tacky layer and stays stuck to the tacky layer, and then we just go through and apply all the layers. So we use these bubble rollers. We tried the aluminum ones and we made more mess trying to clean them up than it was worth, so now we just get the disposable ones. They work just fine. Okay, so we recycle buckets. You can see I let this stuff cure, and the next day I chip the buckets out. That's easy enough. So I'm gonna mix up our little cup of stuff to do the initial wet, and we'll kick that off. All right, well, it's thinking 5 o'clock in the morning. We're almost done. Final layer. I'm doing the final tray now. Mesha's rolling out bubbles. There's the mess we have made. So we do basic cuts for the glass, but then as you can see, there's fine trimming once it's in, just to get little pieces off of it. So yeah, it's 6 layers on the grid, 12 layers of tab. This should be our last late night. I'm over staying up till 5 a.m. But gotta do what you gotta do. What do you think, Mesha?
I think I'm ready for bed. I'm ready for this night to be over. It's morning now.
All right, so all we have to do is now clean up. So we thought that would be our last late night, but the next night we're at it again.
So it's about 9:30 p.m. on Saturday night, and I am going to sand down a patch that we did here on the keel. This is my job tonight. It's a little bit rough right now. It's kind of globbed on there, but it's very hard. It's very solid. It needs to be sanded down so we can fair it and paint it. So we're closing in. We're in the home stretch, but there's still a bit of work left to do. It's finally cool enough out now to where we can come outside and work, and it's reasonably comfortable.
It was 105 in the cockpit today. Not the feels like, the actual temperature was 105 in the cockpit today.
105 degrees in the cockpit today, so yeah. But anyway, that's what I'm doing tonight. So let's get started.
Because our keel bolts were a little loose, the keel had sagged in a couple of areas off of our keel well. And that had caused the 5200 joint to crack in a couple of areas and get loose. So while Mesha was sanding, I took our cutting disc on a grinder and bore into that hull seam between the keel hull and the lead.
So we finished all of our sanding, and Cade took the cutting wheel and he cut out the areas of 5200 that were cracked. And now we've kind of cleaned it out. We're waiting for it to dry really thoroughly so that we can repack it with 5200. And then we're going to run some fairing compound over the seam to make it nice and smooth. And so tomorrow we can paint. What you doing there?
So you can see, you can put a little 5200 on my trowel, forcing it into that crack. That we cleaned out. There we go.
Looks really good. You might not need me to.
No, I think not, yeah. So, just put it on the trowel and pack it in. I think you got some spots up there. Let's go forward. Oh, that's a deep one. Dates that whole bead.
Good.
I want to eat that whole bead too. Like crap. See, like I put a huge bead on there? Yeah. It's gone.
So at this point we're repacking the joint with 5200, and we got the fast cure 5200 so it would dry fast and we would be able to fair and sand and paint in time to splash.
Yeah, so we still had to end up waiting a day, but we had lots of other things going on, so yep, that cured and we were good. I'm gonna put this APF 7 resin filler on the keel. You can sand that flat and then paint. So never used this before. This will be an interesting experiment. I said something about the size of your palm. That's about the size of my palm. And then we've got hardener. Okay, we're gonna put a bead of hardener across it like that. Now, dang it, some on my foot. How did I get some on my foot? Okay, it's very gooey, very sticky, very gross. Let's go apply some. Ooh, it has a smell to it. Oh.
Is it already getting hard?
Holy crap.
Wow, that's fast.
That's fast.
Yeah, it's very quick. Need to move like lightning with this stuff. Which means we're gonna have to fill several times.
What you gotta...
Yeah, I know.
It's drying, isn't it?
That's what I'm saying. It is.
That.
It is curing that quick. Like this stuff over here. Look at that. That's already hard. Because of my injury right now, I can only do so much bent over work, and it seems like all we do is bent over work. I had to take a break, so Mesha took over with the filler. What do you think?
So it's up really fast, so you have to move quickly.
Sanded down the filler, primed it with some heavy primer, and we did make sure that we went a little over the edges, right? So where we applied the primer was actually made sure it was on top of previous coats of primer. And then we painted. Not the whole boat, just the primered spots, but we painted.
It's looking good.
Yeah, like I said, you can see these, right? But if you feel it, it feels pretty decent.
Get some bug spray. So we've sanded about as much as we can, about as much as we're going to on the fairing compound. Looks a lot smoother than it did. Might not be perfect, but that is okay. We don't need it to be. We just need it to kind of smooth out this seam between the hull and the keel. So it looks a little bit smoother, and we're going to put a coat of primer on it tonight and wake up first thing in the morning, probably about 6:30 a.m. and put on the second coat, because they cannot be applied if the temperature is above, was it 90 degrees?
90 degrees,
90
yeah, the can, and I'm sure you can apply over 90, but the can says 90 degrees.
90 degrees. So we're trying to do it according to the instructions to give us the best possible chance for success, which means we need to put on a coat tonight, let it dry, and then get up first thing in the morning and put on our second coat.
So this is a Petit Protect epoxy primer in gray. It's a two-part. Comes like this. So it's 3-to-1 mix. We're going to use half of it tonight and half of it tomorrow morning. So I'm going to put 12 ounces of this 24-ounce can in here. And then I'm going to put 4 ounces of this 8-ounce can in here to a total 16 ounces. Stir heavily and add it to my tray. Holy cow, this stuff's thick.
Oh, it is. It's supposed to be that thick?
Hope so.
That's what part B is for.
We're about to find out. So, but getting the exact 12 ounces is going to be tricky, I think. And
check it out.
there's the 12-ounce marker.
Precisely.
That was actually easier than I expected.
Good.
Oh, I'm dripping.
Think you'll have enough to do the other side too?
Oh yes.
Oh, good.
It's going very far.
Good.
This might have been enough to do the boat.
Okay. Good to know. Good morning.
Roll. Well, that's it. 2 coats on the repaired area. I wish we had time and the money to do the whole bottom, but our bottom paint's only a year old. It got done literally July of last year, and we've spent like 5 months of that year on the hard, so technically it's only been in the water for 7 months. So plenty of bottom paint, good. All the repairs are done, everything's painted. I think we're ready to put it in the water.
Exciting! As you can see, the paint we got does not match, which is okay. That part is below the water line. It doesn't really bother us that much. We can worry about it later when we do a full bottom job. We needed something to get us going, and that is what we were able to get at the time we needed it, and what we could afford. So we didn't get a lot of it. We didn't get enough to do the entire bottom. We were short on funds and short on time.
Bottom paint is expensive. Good God, man, I need to go in that business.
But we got done what we needed to get done. She is now ready to go back in the water.
Next week, we are splashing. This is not a test. We are really splashing. We're putting the boat back in the water.
Can you guys believe it? It's been so long. We feel like we've been in the boatyard for years now.
So please join us, and you can watch either our supreme victory or you know, Flo going down to Davy Jones' locker.
Either way, it will be a learning experience for everybody.
Either way. So Mesha's got a blog every Wednesday that comes out on our website, forloveofwind.com. Check it out. It also talks about the boat, the crew, us. If you wanna support the cause, join the League of Mariners. There's information on the website about that as well, forloveofwind.com.
Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring that notification bell and follow us on social media, and join us on Patreon.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye. GoPro, stop recording.